My 26 female, husband 29, and I were invited to my in-laws for dinner yesterday. Everything was going great until my mother-in-law brought up my husband's player phase in high school. My mother-in-law was just jokingly being like, honestly, him in high school, I never thought he'd settle down with somebody. And my father-in-law was like, yeah, even less with someone like you. I asked him what he meant by that. Both my mother-in-law and husband were then like, please, no. My father-in-law said, well, you weren't exactly his type in high school, you know? My husband tried to make him stop after that, but my father-in-law added, not saying you weren't pretty enough or anything like that. You just wouldn't have caught his eye. I got up from the table and went to the bathroom. I wasn't even in there for 5 minutes when my husband knocked and told me we were leaving. Once we were home, my husband received a text from his mom saying that my reaction was childish and disrespectful and we wouldn't be invited again until I apologized. My husband replied that I'd only apologize if my father-in-law apologized first. He didn't get an answer, but his sister texted me that I needed to apologize ASAP because I was putting my husband's relationship with his parents at risk over a misunderstanding. Not the idiot. I guess you'll have to find a way to make it through life without invites from your in-laws. Your husband has your back, which he should. I wouldn't want to return to my parents' house if they treated my wife like that. Your father-in-law's playing the victim. Don't let them twist it like that. Call him and tell him you want to apologize for bringing out the worst in him, and then tell him to screw off. OP never said anything. OP removed herself from the setting in a non-confrontational way and didn't demand anything from anybody. Saying to somebody that they're not good enough is going to hurt anybody, and LP had a natural reaction to it. In-laws are idiots even to demand an apology on the pretext of harming the relations between the son and his parents. Yeah, what misunderstanding? He insulted you, plain and simple. He called you ugly and boring. Your husband's relationship with his parents is in jeopardy because his father is obnoxious. Pops put his foot in his mouth past his kneecap. Now mother-in-law wants you to apologize for Pop's stupid statement to make everything nice again? The only apology I can think of is I'm sorry you're idiots. There's also some emotional manipulation on the family side. Like, really? Is your family structure so fragile that one falling out will threaten all these relationships? Healthy families talk about things and figure out how to move forward. If his family falls apart over your father-in-law being an idiot and refusing to own it, then that may indicate that the couple doesn't need these folks. OMG, you are the idiot. Complete overreaction. Were you intoxicated or something? Father-in-law probably meant that the girls you used to like were trashy, and you're not. LOL, whatever. It doesn't matter now. What your father-in-law says doesn't matter. Your response was immature because most people aren't taught to defend their feelings from others, especially family. Never let your in-laws or anyone else have control over your emotions. Nobody's opinion of you matters because you know what the facts are. This man married you. That's what's up. Everything else is just irrelevant. So to start this off, my son is a tween and he's been begging for a family pet for a while. I finally gave in when I felt we were ready to take one on, and also when I felt he was ready for the responsibility that comes with one. I expected a dog or a cat, but he really wanted a hamster. So we spent a little over a week prepping, helping him study hamster care, and dedicated a sizable spot in our living room for necessities at home. We finally get around to picking one out at the pet shop. He set on the name Sonic, but the lady ringing us up mentioned the one he picked out was a girl and that she could get him a boy if he wanted, and he just lit up and said, "That's Amy." And that was that. We took Amy home. This was in March. My sister-in-law found out she was pregnant somewhere around that time, and the last month they found out they were having a girl. Basically, they were picking out names, and one of the names they narrowed it down to had Amy as the middle name. I made a joke of something like, "Hey, we already have an Amy at our house," trying to be funny, but sister-in-law didn't think it was. I didn't think much about it at the time, but a couple of days ago, She asked me to come by to talk. She started off by saying that the joke I made was in bad taste. I apologized for it, and then she suggested that I change the name. I told her I didn't think that would go over well with my son, and then she outright demanded it be changed, whether he likes it or not, because she wouldn't have a child share the name with a hamster. I agreed to talk it over with my son to see what he thought, and of course he didn't want to. He even thought it was cool that his cousin would share her name with his hamster. I tried convincing him to rename her Sonic even, or some other Sonic character, but he didn't want that. I explained how sister-in-law felt about this, and he felt a bit hurt because he thought he upset sister-in-law, but he didn't want to change the name and didn't understand why they couldn't just share it. I told sister-in-law that my son was set on Amy, and she blew up. I'll admit, I got a bit defensive and reacted poorly, but essentially I told her it wasn't a huge deal. It's not like anyone was going to make the connection, and by the time her child is old enough to know her name, Amy the hamster likely won't be around. She claimed it was embarrassing because she would always know the connection in her mind, to which I told her if it was such a strong reminder of a hamster, then maybe it wasn't the name she should use for her daughter. My brothers told me that I'm being selfish for not forcing my son to pick another name. Sister-in-law thinks I'm the idiot, and my mom has said the whole thing is childish. So, am I the idiot? It seems the name Sonic is available. Suggest she call the baby that. OP, you're not the idiot. The lifespan of a hamster is 2 to 3 years. This problem will solve itself. Amy's also the middle name. It's different from the name the child would be called by regularly. Imagine having such a terminal case of main character syndrome that you have sleepless nights over the thought of being upstaged by a hamster. Oh man, and if the kid did change it, I'd bring it up at every family gathering. Baby Amy, want to hear a funny story about when your mommy bullied your cousin into changing his hamster's name? You could have had a good hamster. Make it embarrassing for life that she pulled this stupid stunt. It's hilarious she still wants to name her kid Amy after she already associates it with a hamster. That's going to live in her brain forever if she chooses that name. A few decades from now, she'll say her kid's name and will automatically get a mental picture of a hamster. Either way, I'd be buying the kid hamster-related clothing and gifts forever. Happy birthday to little Amy Jr. LOL, I'd never let the sister-in-law forget she named her kid after a cute little rodent. You are the idiot for even indulging her and talking to your kid. You gave some legitimacy to her insane request. You never put the emotions of an adult on a child. A child is not responsible for any adult's emotions or crazy whims. Your son should never have even been made aware of this nonsense. Sure, his aunt might eventually make a comment or something, but then you explain to him that sometimes even adults can act like kids. Instead, you put the decision on him. You put the harmony of the family in his hands. Now he'll feel responsible for the fallout because he doesn't want to rename his hamster. And what kid would? Please, go apologize to your son. Tell him his aunt's ideas and emotions aren't his fault and that you've decided no one is renaming his hamster. My wife and I, 26 and 32 male, got married 2 weeks ago. At our reception, her cousin Rachel, 24 female, caught the bouquet. Apparently, her boyfriend Ross, 25, had been carrying a ring around, waiting for the right time to propose, and decided her catching the bouquet was a sign. So, immediately after Rachel caught the bouquet, Ross ran out to the dance floor and knelt to propose to her. She said yes, which obviously shifted all the attention onto Ross and Rachel. Everyone surrounded them to congratulate them, and then Rachel asked the DJ to play their song for them to dance, which derailed the next few things we had planned. I wasn't happy about this because we only had the photographer available for a certain number of hours, and I was worried about going off the schedule. But what really upset me was that I could see that my wife's feelings were obviously very hurt that Ross and Rachel were stealing our thunder. My wife is really not the type of person to want a lot of attention or to be comfortable spending a lot of money on herself, So our wedding was that one special day when she was able to do so without feeling guilty about it, and seeing it get ruined for her was awful. I decided to ask Ross and Rachel to leave, and at the time, my wife agreed with me. So when I next had the chance, I pulled Ross aside to tell him that I didn't appreciate him upstaging us, and that I thought it'd be best if he and Rachel left early so we can enjoy the rest of the night. Ross started arguing with me, saying that I was acting nuts, which caused more of a scene than I expected or wanted, because a small group of our wedding guests overheard the conversation and jumped in with their opinions. Ross and Rachel did ultimately agree to leave, but for the rest of the night, people were talking not just about them getting engaged, but also about me kicking them out. Everyone was on our side, but even so, my wife and I weren't happy that people continued to talk more about Ross and Rachel. The reason we wanted them to leave was because we didn't want to keep being reminded all night of the stunt they had just pulled on us, instead of being able to celebrate our marriage with our friends and family. My wife has since said that it was wrong to kick Ross and Rachel out, and we should have pretended to be happy for them at the moment, so as not to ruin the night further, because people would have talked less about it that way. Rachel's mothers also complained to my wife's mother about me kicking them out, saying that we should have brought it up to them privately later, instead of letting a faux pas turn into a dispute, because now that's the only thing anyone's going to remember about our wedding, and or about Ross and Rachel's engagement. I still think Ross and Rachel, mostly Ross, were idiots in this situation. But was I also? Not the idiot. The mother at the end, telling them they should have done it privately when her son proposed at someone else's wedding? People have no shame or awareness. Seriously. So your kid does something super obnoxious to upstage someone at their own event, and they're supposed to not react and keep the response private so the kid can continue to ruin their event? No wonder Ross turned out the way he did. It's time to cut these people out of your life 100% OP. Oh, and send Rachel's mother an invoice for half of the reception and DJ fees. They turned your wedding reception into their engagement party, so it's only right that they cough up their share of the rest. How's this not everyone's the idiot here? It's rude to propose at someone else's wedding and to carry around the darn ring to do it, but it already happened when you kicked them out. You can't unring that bell. Instead of being kinda rude for Ross to propose, huh? It becomes, oh man, so much drama. The bride and groom freaked out and kicked them out of the wedding. I agree. The couple shouldn't have proposed, but asking them to leave invited a scene. You basically ruined your own wedding by making a mountain out of a molehill. It would be best if you had congratulated them quickly and then redirected the focus to whatever was next on the schedule. People would have dropped it quickly. Instead, you made a scene on top of the proposal scene and gave everyone a reason to keep talking about the drama. Your wedding's going to be remembered for the engagement and them being ousted. My husband and I have 2 daughters, a young teen, Jenny, and a mid-teen, Emily. Their birthdays are 2 weeks apart. Jenny is extremely jealous of Emily. She will do anything to make sure Emily doesn't get any attention. This year, she decided that she wanted to celebrate her birthday on the day of Emily's birthday. We tried explaining to her that it was wrong and asked her to choose another date, but she didn't listen. We finally told her that either she chose another date or there would be no birthday party for her. Last weekend was Emily's birthday, and we threw a party for her. Everyone was enjoying themselves except for Jenny, who was sulking in her room. My brother-in-law went to talk to Jenny and came back downstairs with Jenny following him. He angrily told us that he was taking Jenny to celebrate her birthday, and we couldn't stop him. My husband and I were very angry, and we didn't want to make a scene and ruin the party, so we let them go. Later, when they returned, we confronted him and told him he had no right to do this. He got mad and started yelling at us, asking us if it would kill us to prioritize Jenny once. Apparently, we're always so busy with Emily. The thing is, Emily was battling cancer for a very long time. She's okay now, and she needed most of our attention. While I understand that Jenny felt like she wasn't a priority, I think she was being very selfish. Edit. There was no neglect. Brother-in-law just has a habit of spoiling Jenny. When Emily was sick, Jenny sort of moved in with brother-in-law. She still came home, of course, but spent most of her time there. Brother-in-law can't have kids, and it felt like he just decided to take Jenny. Maybe it was his way of making us look bad so he could be what he wanted to be, Jenny's dad. I'm not playing favorites. Jenny needs to be more mature. Man, that last sentence. I'm sorry your child had cancer, but that's not an excuse to neglect your other child, who obviously is crying out for attention and love that she doesn't feel she's getting. I applaud your brother-in-law for what he did. I'm torn, but I will go with you are the idiot for what you did to lead you to that day. Let your daughter go live with her uncle so she can have a loving and caring home. Jenny's behavior in this specific situation was totally unreasonable, but it sounds like there were several years of neglect leading up to it. Get therapy now for Jenny and ask her therapist for a referral to a parenting or family therapist for you and your husband. You have some serious repairing to do in your family, and you need to recognize how deep the problem runs. This isn't a child being suddenly inexplicably selfish. It's a really troubled family. I'm sorry, but you are the idiot. Look up the term glass child. Jenny's begging for her to feel like a priority, and it sounds like you're dismissing her as being purely jealous. If your brother-in-law and others around you can see that Jenny's being neglected, even if it felt correct then, you need to take a step back. Cancer can fracture a family, and this needs to be your wake-up call that now that the cancer is over, it's time to heal the emotional damage it did. I, 18 male, was taking my little brother to the swimming pool. We saw this couple, looked late 30s, early 40s, panicking by the poolside. Then I saw what they were looking at. A kid was drowning, and they were screaming in panic. Now, I've seen my girlfriend, 18, jump in to save a kid. She's an excellent swimmer, one of the best in our school. She told me afterward that if I ever found myself in that situation, I should just throw a flotation device and get a lifeguard. So that's what I did. I tossed the kid my brother's kickboard and then ran for a lifeguard, who promptly rescued the kid. The kid thanked both me and the guard, but his dad was upset and asked, "Why didn't you just jump in yourself? He could have died while you were getting the lifeguard." That upset me, and I said, "Hey, at least I did something instead of nothing." The parents got really upset and said I don't understand how terrified they were and that they were paralyzed, that I had no idea what being so afraid felt like. Was I the idiot? LMAO. Sorry I didn't save your son's life to your particular standards. What a clown. Not the idiot, and you did exactly the right thing. A good job assessing your girlfriends and your actual ability realistically like that, not letting your masculine impulse get you in trouble. The first rule of helping in emergencies is not to create more casualties. If you're not competent to rescue, do not attempt to rescue. Lots of cases of parents drowning to try to save a child. So if you weren't a good enough swimmer to rescue someone, and you need to keep in mind that a person who's drowning will try to drown you in a panic as you try to rescue them. So being able to swim pretty well isn't enough then. Doing what you did is the best option. Good for you for not panicking and for remembering good advice for what to do in an emergency. I did the training to become a lifeguard. The very first thing you're taught on what to do when someone is drowning is to throw something they can grab and float with at them. You only go out and grab them after they're unconscious because they will grab onto you and take you down with them. OP, you did exactly the right thing. And you have every right to complain about the parents because what they said you should have done could have caused you and the kid to drown. Panicked people are very dangerous.